Being ambitious but lazy is worse than having no ambition at all. At least the person with no dreams isn't torturing themselves with what could be. You're living in the hell of unrealized potential, smart enough to see the opportunity, but too weak to seize it. Your intelligence has become your curse, not your blessing. Let me tell you something that might sting a little, but it needs to be said. I've met thousands of people over the years, and I've noticed something fascinating and heartbreaking at the same time. There are people walking around this world with million-dollar dreams, living $1,000 lifestyles, not because they don't have the ability, not because they don't have the intelligence, but because they have something far more dangerous than ignorance. They have ambition without action. You see, being ambitious but lazy is like having a Ferrari in your garage with no gas in the tank. It looks impressive, it sounds good when you talk about it, but at the end of the day, it's not taking you anywhere. And that's exactly where too many people find themselves today. They've got the dreams, they've got the plans, they've even got the vision boards on their walls, but they're still sitting in the same spot they were 5 years ago. Now let me ask you something honestly. How many times have you said to yourself, this is the year everything changes? How many Monday mornings have you woken up with grand plans only to find yourself back in the same old routine by Wednesday? How many books have you bought that are still sitting on your shelf, unread, gathering dust while you dream about the knowledge inside them? The ambitious, lazy person is perhaps the most frustrated person on earth. They know what they could be, they can see what they should be, but they're trapped in a prison of their own making. They're smart enough to recognize opportunity, but too comfortable to seize it. They're wise enough to know what needs to be done, but too weak to do it consistently. I remember a young man who came to one of my seminars years ago. Bright kid, full of energy, full of ideas. He had a business plan that could have changed his life. He talked about it with such passion, such conviction, that I thought for sure he'd be a millionaire within 5 years. I ran into him 10 years later, and you know what? He was still talking about the same business plan. Still passionate, still convinced it would work, but he had never taken the first real step to make it happen. That's the tragedy of ambitious laziness. It's not the failure to dream big, it's the failure to start small. It's not the inability to see the destination, it's the unwillingness to take the first step of the journey. And here's what I've learned. Ambition without action is nothing more than entertainment. It makes you feel good temporarily, but it doesn't change your bank account. It doesn't change your relationships, and it certainly doesn't change your life. The ambitious, lazy person loves to plan. They'll spend hours, days, weeks planning the perfect approach. They'll research every possible angle, every potential obstacle, every conceivable outcome, and while they're planning, life is passing them by. While they're getting ready to get ready, others are already doing the work and reaping the rewards. You know what separates the successful from the unsuccessful? It's not intelligence, it's not talent, it's not even opportunity. It's the willingness to do what others won't do, to start before they feel ready, to take action in the face of uncertainty. The successful person doesn't wait for perfect conditions. They create conditions through action. The comfort zone is a beautiful place, but nothing ever grows there. And the ambitious, lazy person has made the comfort zone their permanent address. They've decorated it with dreams and furnished it with good intentions, but at the end of the day, it's still a prison that keeps them from their potential. Now let's talk about why this happens. Why do intelligent, capable people become ambitious but lazy? The first reason is fear. Oh, they won't call it fear. They'll call it being practical, being realistic, waiting for the right time. But underneath all those excuses is fear. Fear of failure, fear of success, fear of judgment, fear of the unknown. You see, when you don't take action, you don't have to face the possibility of failing. When you keep your dreams in your head, they stay perfect and untainted by reality. But the moment you take action, you open yourself up to criticism, to setbacks, to the possibility that maybe you're not as capable as you thought you were. The second reason is overwhelm. The ambitious person sees the big picture so clearly that they become paralyzed by its enormity. They want to write a book, but they think about the 300 pages they need to write instead of the 1 page they could write today. They want to start a business, but they think about the $1 million company instead of the first sale they could make this week. Here's what I've learned. You don't have to see the whole staircase to take the first step. You don't need to have everything figured out to get started. In fact, clarity comes through action, not through thinking. The path becomes clear as you walk it, not as you stare at it from the starting line. The third reason is instant gratification. We live in a world that promises quick results, overnight success, immediate satisfaction. The ambitious, lazy person wants the results without the process. They want the harvest without planting the seeds. They want the physique without the workouts, the wealth without the work, the skills without the practice. But success doesn't work that way. Success is a process, not an event. It's the accumulation of small daily disciplines practiced consistently over time. It's choosing the difficult path when the easy path is available. It's doing what you said you would do long after the mood you set it in has left you. The fourth reason is poor associations. Show me your friends and I'll show you your future. The ambitious, lazy person often surrounds themselves with other ambitious, lazy people. They sit around talking about what they're going to do, what they could do, what they should do, but nobody is actually doing anything. They become enablers for each other's inaction. I've seen this pattern over and over again. A group of friends who all have big dreams, who all support each other's dreams, who all talk about success and wealth and achievement, but none of them are willing to pay the price that success demands. They create an environment where dreaming is celebrated, but doing is optional. Your environment shapes your behavior more than your willpower ever will. If you're surrounded by people who are comfortable with mediocrity, you'll become comfortable with mediocrity. If you're surrounded by people who make excuses, you'll start making excuses. If you're surrounded by people who talk about success but don't pursue it, you'll do the same. The fifth reason is perfectionism disguised as preparation. The ambitious, lazy person will tell you they're not ready yet. They need to learn more, study more, prepare more. They need the perfect plan, the perfect timing, the perfect conditions. But perfection is just another form of procrastination. I learned something important early in my career. You don't have to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great. The person who takes imperfect action will always outperform the person who waits for perfect conditions. The person who starts with what they have will always achieve more than the person who waits for what they think they need. Here's the reality that the ambitious, lazy person doesn't want to face. Time is the one resource you can never get back. While you're waiting for the perfect moment, others are creating moments. While you're preparing to start, others are starting to succeed. Time doesn't wait for anyone, and neither does opportunity. Let me paint you a picture of what happens when ambitious laziness goes unchecked. The ambitious, lazy person at 25 says, I have plenty of time. At 35, they say, I'm still young. At 45, they start to panic, but they tell themselves it's not too late. At 55, the panic turns to resignation. At 65, they're full of regret, wondering what could have been if they had just started when they first had the idea. I've met too many people in their later years who are haunted by the ghost of their unused potential. They carry with them the weight of what they could have accomplished, what they should have attempted, what they would have achieved if they had just been willing to begin. The saddest words in the English language are not what is, but what could have been. What could have been if you had started that business 10 years ago? What could have been if you had developed that skill when you first thought about it? What could have been if you had taken action instead of making excuses? But here's the good news, and here's why I wanted to talk to you today. It's not too late. I don't care if you're 25 or 55. If you've been making excuses for 5 years or 15 years, it's not too late to change the trajectory of your life. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. The transformation from ambitious lazy to ambitious active doesn't happen overnight, but it can start right now. It starts with a decision, a commitment, a line drawn in the sand between who you were and who you're going to become. First, you need to start where you are, not where you think you should be. The ambitious lazy person is always trying to skip steps. to jump ahead to where they think they should be based on their age, their education, their circumstances. But success doesn't care about where you think you should be. Success only cares about where you are and what you do next. If you want to be a writer, don't worry about writing the great American novel. Write a paragraph. If you want to start a business, don't worry about building an empire. Make one sale. If you want to get in shape, don't worry about running a marathon. Walk around the block. The power is in the beginning, not in the perfection of the beginning. The power is in the action, not in the size of the action. The power is in the commitment to consistency, not in the commitment to intensity. I learned this lesson from a janitor I met many years ago. This man worked cleaning office buildings at night, but during the day, he was studying to become an accountant. He didn't quit his job to go back to school full time. He didn't wait until he had enough money saved up to stop working. He started where he was, with what he had, doing what he could. Every morning before work, he studied for 2 hours. Every lunch break, he reviewed his notes. Every weekend, he took practice exams. It took him 4 years to get his degree, but he got it. And you know what happened next? Within 2 years, he was making more money as an accountant than I was making as a business owner at the time. That man understood something that the ambitious, lazy person doesn't. Small steps taken consistently will take you further than giant leaps taken occasionally. He understood that you don't have to be extraordinary to achieve extraordinary results. You just have to be consistent. The second thing you need to understand is the power of tiny habits. The ambitious, lazy person thinks that dramatic change requires dramatic action. They think they need to overhaul their entire life in one day. But that's not how lasting change happens. Lasting change happens through tiny habits, practiced consistently over time. It's reading 10 pages a day, not finishing a book in one sitting. It's exercising for 20 minutes a day, not working out for 4 hours once a week. It's making one sales call a day, not making 50 calls on Friday because you procrastinated all week. The compound effect of small actions taken consistently is more powerful than any single dramatic gesture. A penny doubled every day for 30 days becomes over $5 million. That's the power of compound growth, and it applies to every area of your life. Your knowledge compounds when you learn a little bit every day. Your health compounds when you exercise a little bit every day. Your wealth compounds when you save and invest a little bit every day. Your relationships compound when you invest in them a little bit every day. But here's the key. You have to start before you feel ready. You have to start before you feel motivated. You have to start before you feel inspired. Because motivation comes from action, not the other way around. The ambitious, lazy person waits to feel motivated before they take action. But successful people take action and then feel motivated by their progress. They don't wait for inspiration. They create inspiration through their daily disciplines. I want you to think about this. Every single day you have a choice. You can choose to move toward your goals or away from them. There is no standing still. There is no neutral. Every day you don't take action toward your dreams is a day you move further away from them. The successful person doesn't wait for Monday to start their diet. They don't wait for January to start their new habits. They don't wait for the perfect conditions to begin their journey. They start now with what they have, where they are. And here's what happens when you start taking consistent action. You build momentum. Momentum is the friend of the action taker and the enemy of the procrastinator. Once you start building momentum, it becomes easier to keep going than to stop. But you have to be willing to start before you feel ready. You have to be willing to be bad before you can be good. You have to be willing to be a beginner, to make mistakes, to look foolish, to fail forward. The ambitious, lazy person is paralyzed by the fear of not being good enough. But here's the truth. You're not supposed to be good enough when you start. You're supposed to become good enough through the process of starting. Every expert was once a beginner. Every professional was once an amateur. Every success story started with someone who was willing to be bad at something long enough to become good at it. You don't need permission to begin. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need more time, more money, more knowledge, or more confidence. You need to start with what you have, where you are right now. The time you spend waiting for the perfect moment is time you could spend getting better. The energy you spend planning the perfect approach is energy you could spend taking imperfect action. The mental space you spend worrying about what could go wrong is mental space you could spend focused on what needs to be done. I want to leave you with this thought. Your dreams are not too big. Your excuses are too small. Your ambition is not the problem. Your action is the solution. You have everything you need to start. You have more than enough to begin. The question is not whether you can achieve your dreams. The question is whether you will. The question is not whether you have what it takes. The question is whether you'll use what you have. The question is not whether you're ready. The question is whether you'll start before you feel ready. Stop being ambitious and lazy. Start being ambitious and active. Your future self is counting on the decisions you make today. Your dreams are waiting for you to stop talking and start walking. Your potential is not a destination. It's a daily choice. The world needs what you have to offer, but only if you're willing to offer it. Your family needs the example you could set, but only if you're willing to set it. Your community needs the contribution you could make, but only if you're willing to make it. You were not born to be comfortable. You were born to grow, to contribute, to make a difference. But none of that happens while you're sitting on the sidelines of your own life dreaming about what could be instead of working on what will be. Today is the day, not tomorrow, not next week, not next month. Today, right now, this moment, stop making excuses and start making progress. Stop planning perfection and start practicing improvement. Stop waiting for someday and start working on today. Your ambitious, lazy days are over if you decide they are. Your transformation begins with your next decision. Make it count. Make it matter. Make it the beginning of the rest of your life. Let me share with you one more story that changed my perspective forever. I once knew a man who worked at a factory for 30 years. Every day, same routine, same paycheck, same complaints about his boss, his co-workers, his circumstances. He had dreams of starting his own business, dreams of financial freedom, dreams of leaving something meaningful for his children. But every day he chose comfort over courage. One day the factory closed down, just like that. 30 years of loyalty, 30 years of playing it safe, and suddenly he was out of work at 55 years old. You know what he told me? He said, "Jim, I wish I had started that business 20 years ago when I first thought about it. I wish I had taken the risk when I had the energy and the time." That man taught me something profound. The risk of not taking action is far greater than the risk of taking action. The cost of staying where you are is far higher than the cost of moving forward. The price of regret is far more expensive than the price of discipline. You see, the ambitious, lazy person thinks they're avoiding risk by not taking action, but they're actually taking the biggest risk of all. They're risking their potential. They're risking their future. They're risking the very thing that makes life worth living, the opportunity to become who they're capable of becoming. Every day you wait is a day of compound interest working against you instead of for you. Every week you procrastinate is a week of skills you could have developed. Every month you make excuses is a month of progress you could have made. Every year you stay the same is a year of growth you've forfeited. But here's what I want you to understand about time. It's not about how much time you have left. It's about what you do with the time you have. I've seen people accomplish more in 5 years of focused action than others accomplished in 50 years of unfocused living. The difference isn't in the amount of time. The difference is in the intensity of purpose. The difference is in the consistency of effort. The difference is in the willingness to sacrifice what you want now for what you want most. And that brings me to another critical point. You cannot have everything you want, but you can have anything you want if you're willing to give up everything else. The ambitious, lazy person wants to keep all their options open. They want to maintain their comfort while pursuing their dreams. They want the security of the known while reaching for the unknown. But life doesn't work that way. Success requires sacrifice. Achievement requires trade-offs. Growth requires giving up who you are for who you could become. And that's scary for the ambitious, lazy person because it means closing some doors to open others. I remember making the decision to leave my secure job to pursue speaking and teaching. Everyone thought I was crazy. I had a steady paycheck, good benefits, a predictable future, but I also had dreams that were bigger than my circumstances, and I knew that if I didn't act on them, I would spend the rest of my life wondering what could have been. The day I handed in my resignation, my hands were shaking. Not because I wasn't sure about my decision, but because I was stepping into the unknown. I was trading security for possibility, comfort for growth, certainty for potential. That decision changed everything. Not because it was easy, but because it was necessary. Not because I felt ready, but because I chose to act despite not feeling ready. Not because I had all the answers, but because I was willing to find the answers along the way. Here's what I learned from that experience. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is action in the presence of fear. The ambitious, lazy person waits for the fear to go away before they act. But fear doesn't go away. You have to act in spite of it. Fear is not your enemy. Fear is information. It's telling you that what you're about to do matters. It's telling you that you're about to step outside your comfort zone. It's telling you that you're about to grow. The successful person feels the same fear as the unsuccessful person. The difference is that the successful person acts despite the fear, while the unsuccessful person uses the fear as an excuse not to act. You have to understand that your comfort zone is not comfortable. It might feel comfortable in the moment, but it's actually the most uncomfortable place you can be long term. Because in your comfort zone, you're slowly dying. You're not growing. You're not contributing. The most comfortable place to be is in pursuit of your potential. The most comfortable place to be is in action toward your goals. The most comfortable place to be is growing, learning, contributing, making a difference. But you have to be willing to be uncomfortable short term to be comfortable long term. You have to be willing to sacrifice today's comfort for tomorrow's success. You have to be willing to do what others won't do so you can have what others won't. And here's the beautiful thing about taking action. It creates its own energy. The ambitious, lazy person thinks they need energy to take action. But the truth is, action creates energy. Movement creates momentum. Progress creates passion. When you start doing the work, when you start making progress, when you start seeing results, something magical happens. You become energized by your own success. You become motivated by your own progress. You become inspired by your own potential. But you have to start. You have to take the first step. You have to make the first move. Because potential energy only becomes kinetic energy through action. Dreams only become reality through work. Ambition only becomes achievement through effort. The time for excuses is over. The time for preparation is over. The time for planning is over. The time for action is now. Not when you feel ready, not when you have more money, not when you have more time, not when the conditions are perfect. Now. Because now is all you have. Now is all you ever have. You can't change the past and you can't control the future. But you can control what you do right now in this moment with this opportunity. Your life is not a dress rehearsal. This is it. This is your one shot. This is your one opportunity to become who you're capable of becoming, to achieve what you're capable of achieving, to contribute what you're capable of contributing. Don't waste it on wishes. Don't waste it on excuses. Don't waste it on regret. Use it. Act on it. Turn your ambition into action, your dreams into discipline, your potential into performance. The world is waiting for your contribution. Your family is waiting for your example. Your future is waiting for your decision. Stop being ambitious and lazy. Start being ambitious and active. Your time is now.